Here we have the new Arturia BeatStep Pro, which is obviously a step up from the original BeatStep. We've got the Volca connected here. It's just receiving MIDI clock. And obviously I can change the clocking from the BeatStep Pro, and it changes the tempo of the Volca. Now, we've got a number of different modes here. We've got, in project mode, we can select 16 different projects, which we can recall on the fly. We've got the control mode, where we can use the controllers, the knobs for different kind of control, MIDI control and things like that. Sequence of 1, which can output MIDI and also CV gate information. A number of different steps, up to 64 steps. Sequence of 2, exactly the same. And then the drum sequence, which is like a TR style drum sequence, which can send MIDI, or it can actually send to one of the trigger outputs on the back, which is really nice. So what we're going to do now is kind of dive in with the sequence. We've got it connected up to a Roland System 1M, and I'm going to get this pattern going. And you can hear we just got this simple pattern. You can see the little green steps flashing by. The ones that are lit up are the ones where it actually plays the sound. I can actually add a step. I can flick between different patterns as well, which might be different lengths. And we can just do that on the fly. So it's quite a nice way of actually playing around and seeing what happens. We can change the play mode, forwards, reverse, alternate, and so on. And that's stored with each of the different patterns. Triplet. And then also we've got half speed, double speed, and so on. So there's quite a lot of flexibility there in terms of actually the way in which it plays back. Adjusting a knob will actually play back the sound so you can actually hear what you're doing. And this is controlling the pitch output to the System 1M. Now, you can actually change the scale. So if we want to change to something like a minor scale, as I adjust that, you can see that we actually get the different notes coming through based on the minor scale. Now, this is one of the advantages, I guess, of having a digitally controlled system, in the sense that it can actually play proper scales and it's calibrated. We can actually choose how it's actually calibrated in terms of the quantizing of pitches. Let's choose some different steps. So we've got our pattern going backwards and forwards there. You can actually also use the record button for actually playing stuff in real time. There's a facility for outputting a metronome pulse via MIDI. And we also can choose the gate time. So each of these controllers now, as you can see the numeric display updating. You can see that we can actually change the length of the notes. For each of the different steps. Now we've got a little bit of a release on the synth sound at the moment anyway, so you get a slightly rounded release, but then we are changing the overall length of the note there. Now we can also transpose sequences in real time. So we hold down the sequencer button, sequencer 1, and we choose a different note on the pad keyboard. We can transpose there in real time. Now you can do this on a per sequence basis, or you can do it globally, so everything gets transposed apart from the drum tracks, of course. We've got a looper, a roller looper mode here, which repeats different elements. So it's something that's kind of gets slightly borrowed from Volcas and things like that, which is quite interesting, quite nice to have. Now if we go into the velocity control here, what we get is an extra CV out, which can be used to control velocity, but in this case we're going to use it to control the filter cutoff. So it's another set of channels, sequencer lanes, which I can use to output different control voltages. So we're now actually using this to control filter cutoff. It could, of course, go if you had a modular system, a fully modular system. It could be used to control pretty much any parameter here. And don't forget, we've got two sequencers here, so we could use the other sequencer to actually modulate parameters separately with a different time signature to the sequence we've got going on here. So things get quite interesting when you start playing around with that. So we're getting the filter cutoff going up and down. Save this pattern here. You can save a pattern per sequencer. So each sequence is going to have its own set of patterns. Now I'm going to go to pattern 2, which I've set up already, which is a 4-step pattern, sorry. Tweaking the pitch. Change the last step as well. It's going backwards and forwards. It's obviously important you save the patterns here, otherwise you start to lose what you're doing. Because I guess the idea is that when you're actually in a sort of real-time performance, you don't want to save all the changes that you do on the fly. You want to have a base pattern, and then you can start playing around with the tweaking on top of that. So whenever you recall a pattern, it comes back to how you originally set it up, which kind of makes sense. Now, all these sequence patterns can actually also be edited from the control software as well. In terms of notes, you can actually see what's going on. So you can actually have a sort of almost a graphical display of these sequences. We have obviously sequencer 2, which I mentioned before, and this drum programmer, which is a TR style, can output MIDI notes across the 16 different pads. We also got the trigger outputs on the back, which you can see a little row of on the back as well. So all in all, there's lots to play around with here, and we're only kind of really scratching the surface in terms of what this can do.